Hello there, it's Juliana Michaels and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm sharing how I put together this ghostly scene using some of the new dies from the Holtz Sizzix Halloween 2024 release. You can also see how I use distressed foundry wax to add some interest and shine to the die cuts, along with two of my favorite techniques when it comes to die cutting, sanding and ink smishing. As always, feel free to pull from your stash, but if you are interested in any of the products I'm using, you can find the supply list with links in the description box below. Shopping through those links supports me, and I appreciate that support more than you know. In this card, I'm going to be using some of the new Holtz Sizzix Halloween Vault release. So the dies I'm going to be using are the Vault Fright Night, Vault Portraits, Vault Foliage Wreath, and then from the previous Vault release, I'm going to be using the Funky Floral Wreath. So for the papers, I'm going to be using a variety of different papers. I've got some black Kraft stock, some plain black cardstock, distressed watercolor cardstock, plain white cardstock, and then some of the black Woodgrain cardstock that came out a year or two ago. I hoarded multiple packs of this, so I still have some and wanted to use it for this card. If you don't have any of this, you could also use a Woodgrain embossing folder and some black cardstock to get a similar effect, or if you do have it, pull it out and use it. And then I'm also using some pattern paper. I'm just going to be using one sheet of pattern paper, but just wanted to give you some, so you could see, you could use different patterns. It doesn't need to be exactly the one that I'm going to be using. You just go through your pattern paper collection after we make the embellishment and just find something that coordinates nicely. These are from the Halloween pack from last year, but there are multiple papers in the different paper packs that would probably work. And then as far as the mediums go, we're going to be using foundry wax in statue and sterling, and then distress ink and pumice stone. With the foundry wax, you're going to need like a short paintbrush and a heat embossing gun so that you can set the foundry wax. And then you also need a blending brush to do some ink blending later. And then I'm also going to be using the Ranger sanding disc with the black Kraft stock. Off camera, I die cut some of the various pieces I'm going to be using on the card. So for this, I used the black Kraft stock to die cut the little tombstones. I cut two wreaths, one from the Funky Floral Wreath and one from the Funky Foliage Wreath from black cardstock. And then I've got the ghosts and the word boo that I cut from the distressed watercolor cardstock. And I'm going to glue these two layers together just to make this a little more sturdy. You could probably also do the same thing with the ghosts, or you could skip this part if you don't feel the need for it. So that's kind of really up to you there. So first off, we're just going to do some of the sanding here. So I've got just a scrap piece of packaging underneath so I don't scratch my craft mat. And this is just a piece of sandpaper that's got a Velcro attachment on it so that you can use it with your blending tools. And I'm just gonna kind of rub that along the edges of the paper and kind of going away from me, especially with some of these little, you don't want to go like round and round in circles. You want to just kind of pull away and hold it with your fingers and then kind of pull away so that you don't accidentally tear it. And then, get away with a little bit more on the larger solid pieces, but on those more delicate ones, you want to just kind of hold it carefully and kind of go away so that you aren't tearing it. And then you just kind of wipe away some of the dust there, and then just kind of gives a nice little aged effect to the paper. All right, so now we're gonna work on the wreaths, and for these we're gonna be using the foundry wax in the sterling and statue, and then you're gonna need your paintbrush and your heat tool. And you just wanna make sure you shake these up till you hear that little mixing ball rattling around. And then you're just gonna put a little drop of it onto your craft mat. You don't need a lot. And then you wanna make sure you cap that when you're not using it so it doesn't dry out. So you're gonna pounce your brush into the wax. And then you're gonna just very lightly kind of brush that over here and there over the surface, kind of quickly. You're not looking to get like complete coverage. And we're not using this to like really build up like a thick, heavy, like the true usage of this, but it still adds this nice little touch of shine to things. And then now we want to heat set this because this foundry wax is not permanent until heat's been applied to it. So it will continue, it will, like, you could just keep wiping this off of the paper until you heat set it. And then that said, whatever's on your craft mat here, like this just is turned into a powder, and like you can see that powder on my finger here. And you can clean up your craft mat with like some rubbing alcohol and your brush with some rubbing alcohol. You just want to make sure you don't heat set onto your craft mat with the foundry wax still on there, or it will make it permanent into your mat as well. So now we're just going to heat set these, and when you're doing the heat setting, you want to make sure you get the foundry wax out of the way so you don't accidentally heat the bottles, or the foundry wax will harden in there. Repeat that on the other one. And now we're going to repeat that same process with the statue. I'm gonna give that a little shake, add a little drop here to the mat. Get my brush in here. And then again, I'm just barely rubbing the tip of this kind of in different directions over the surface of my paper here. So if you're getting too much on, you might want to just cut a few of these and just practice a little bit. So until you kind of get the feel for how high to kind of hold that brush up and how lightly to go with it. So I had to practice a few times myself trying to figure out how to do this too. So nothing wrong with practicing. Enjoy the process. Okay, I'll clean this up. Like I said, just a little rubbing alcohol there. And that's all gone. And again, that works as long as it's not been heat set. Once it's heat set, it is permanent. So just remember that. Now we'll heat set that with the heat gun. So there is the finished wreath, and then I'll just glue those two layers together to finish it off. Now for the other die cuts, I'm going to do a little bit of some ink smushing with some of that Pumice Stone Distress ink. So I'm just going to smush that onto my craft mat there a little. And we're going to add some water. And then I'm going to take my die cuts and just kind of smush them into the ink. And I'm going to lay them on my little heat mat here. And then I'm going to dry that with my heat tool. Okay, and so there are our little die cuts ready for our card. All right, so I've cut down the pattern paper, and it's been cut to 3.5 by 5. And then I have a piece of white cardstock here that I've cut to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then I have my black wood grain that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. So now we're gonna do a little bit of some ink blending onto our cardstock and paper here. And I'm just gonna kind of work around the edges here with the blending tool. Get that ink around the edges. It's kind of creating like a vignette around the outside edge here. And then on this one here, I'm just going to kind of lightly ink the edges of it. Here's a look at the completed card. For the card background, I took the pattern paper and distressed the edges with the back of a craft knife, and then added some machine stitching around the outer edge, and then adhered the various card panels together. To finish off the card, I used a combination of liquid adhesive and double-sided foam adhesive to adhere the die cuts and create the ghostly scene. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this card came together using this ghostly scene came together using the new Holtz Sizzix 2024 Halloween release. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can join me on a more regular basis. Hit the like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to join me on my other social media platforms, you can find the links to those in the description box below. Also, feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions or if there's something you'd love to share with me and our community. I'll see you in the comments below and in the next video. Until next time, stay crafty, my friend.